take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Put the palms down. All right, good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all. Thanks for being here. Anyone here for the first time joining us? What brings you here?
I want to meditate.
You want to meditate? What?
I feel better whenever I do.
Yeah. Good.
Hard to be regular.
It's tough to stay consistent, yeah? Yeah, for sure. What else? Anyone here for the first time? Those who keep coming back, why? Why show up here? Kind of to my question, to meditate, but why? Why do we do this practice? Yeah?
I find it keeps me sane and balanced. If I don't do that, I just get back out. So.
Sane and balanced. Yes, it's a good thing to have. What else? Why show up?
I always learn something from these classes. Somebody always asks the stupid question that I've got in my head that I'm like, no, I'm not going to ask that question.
Yeah.
So I'm always relieved.
Yes. We're grateful to the people who ask the stupid questions, right?
Yeah.
No, it's funny the other day. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I said, may I be one of them today?
Yes. The courage to ask the question,
Yeah.
It's always that fear for some reason. Somebody came to me with a question last week and I said, no, save it for class. And they were afraid to ask it. And I said, I guarantee you somebody else is sitting there thinking the same thing, And to clarify, there are no stupid questions, just questions. But it is that fear that we're afraid to ask something, hoping somebody else asks it. So, yeah, what else? Why show up? Yeah.
I keep getting reminded that everything is temporary.
Yeah. And everything being temporary or impermanent, including what?
This.
This being what?
I don't like to think about that, but this is.
What is this?
My experience?
You.
Oh, yeah.
You are impermanent. We all are impermanent. We all are temporary. We all are here for such a brief moment in time. From a second to 120 years or whatever it is. It's so quick. And since we know that, we might not like to know that, but since we know that everything is impermanent and temporary, why would we waste any moment of our brief time being angry and miserable and sad and depressed and fighting and yelling and screaming? That is precious time that you can never get back. And if people choose to spend half of their day angry and miserable, then that's their choice. But, I spent enough years there to know that that's not a place to stay. So remind yourself when you're angry and miserable that you're choosing to be there. And that doesn't mean you're not standing up for what you believe in or fighting for what you believe in or speaking your truth and what's important to you. But you can do all of that without being angry and miserable and hating yourself and everybody else. That's the practice. What else? One more. Why show up? And to those joining virtually, welcome. Glad you're here. Feel free to say hello as you are, and if you want to share why you show up or anything at all, there's a chat box on your screen somewhere.
Yeah, just a sense of belonging that I feel when I'm here.
Yeah, sense of belonging. You know, over the years, people often ask me, why do I think people show up here? And the number one reason that I always go to just immediately is I don't think people come here just because of meditation or Buddhism or, you know, the cool building or, you know, whatever it is. They want to feel like they belong somewhere, a community. And that's what that's the triple gem, the Sangha. And I've found that that's what people are seeking, craving, desiring the most is a community of people where they just can drop all of the, you know, labels and concerns and worries and panic and just be themselves, you know, and not worry about asking stupid questions, you know. Yeah. So, all right. So with that, we'll start with the meditation practice. Or what's your name?
Anand.
Anand. If we don't meditate, Anand will be really angry. So we'll do a meditation practice just for Anand today.
Thank you.
A couple things to tell you before we begin. For those who are new, nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you're on a cushion, often it helps slide into the front third. Pushing the stomach forward. If you're on a bench or chair, however you're seated, also just trying to sit up straight. If comfortable, relaxing the shoulders. If you need to move, simply move. Movement doesn't make you a bad meditator. It just means you need to move. Most important, especially if you're new, you're not going to shut your mind off. You will not think nothing. You will not go blank. Your mind will continue to race. I'll say things periodically to wake you up or remind you that you're lost in thought and bring you back to this present moment. I'll guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. And starting with the eyes closed, if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. We'll start with gently guiding the attention, focus, to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. Expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Where's your mind? Lost in thought? Return to breath. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, just sitting, breathing. With the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, and no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. And most important, the practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, it's not from anything I said. It's not from how we sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's not from the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samutpata, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means, very simply, for all of us, regardless where you come from or what you believe in and where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens. More reactions. That's what we get. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your day. And so all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, and focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. This practice is not easy. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is. It is direct perception into the present moment. And the present moment is often filled with conflict, chaos, difficulty, challenges. And this practice is learning to be with life as it arises. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's just sitting, breathing, learning to be kind to yourself and everybody else you encounter every moment of your life. And that's all. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything and everyone around us, we spend so much time arguing, hoping they do this, hoping they do that, wishing they would do this, wishing they would do that. So much time spent there. And this practice is learning to take care of the way you think, the way you speak, the way you act, and respond to the world around you. Once we do that, your life will get a little more peaceful, a little calmer. And with that sense of peace, with that sense of calm, with that sense of stability, you can go do anything you want. But it's really difficult to stop trying to change everybody else and work on changing yourself. That's this practice. Lots of things for other things. This practice is working on you. And what I see more and more recently is people wanting to know how to get others to change and others to fix others. And others to have different views and others to believe what you believe. That's not this practice. So when you bring this practice into your life, remember that. This practice is working on your thoughts, your words, and your actions. And being very honest with that. But again, that's not easy. Because it's much easier to just complain about everything all day long. And point fingers all day long and throw blame all day long. The beauty of this Sangha is I'm sure no one in here has ever done anything wrong or harmed anyone. So it's so nice to sit with all of you enlightened people on a Saturday morning. So with that, I'll pause. I'll open up to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. And to those who are joining virtually, again, welcome. Feel free to say hello. There's a chat box on your screen. You can put questions there if you'd like. I'll do my best to respond. And we'll open up to questions. Yeah.
I was looking at a picture of you earlier when you were out at the monastery, and with the other students from the Western world, I guess, the West, right? And you were wearing a white robe. Why were the others wearing black? Was that like a first year kind of robe that you were wearing? Or was it just something, well, I think I'll wear white today?
What does that have to do with your life?
I am curious.
And you've been here long enough where I can give you shit. I know. I'm going to eventually answer your question. I just want to know.
That's right. I did defend myself there.
You know, what's that?
I did defend myself there.
And I just said there were no stupid questions, too.
I thought it was pretty stupid. I'm going to slink away and write him up.
Why do you wear that blue shirt?
Because it brings out the color in my eyes.
Oh. I got nothing after that.
I usually don't either.
Because you said that, I'll answer your question.
Please do.
No, so the general, I think the best way to look at this, and then specifically, is every Buddhist tradition, every Buddhist temple, every Buddhist monastery has different colors that they wear, different clothes that they wear, different robes that they wear. Some are for kind of maybe wearing, if you're in a monastery, kind of living, working, being in a monastery that you would wear all day long, and then you would put on that example. You would have certain, there are a couple different ones. One was white, one was gray, but they almost look like pajamas, really, just to put it into context, right? And then when you would do formal ritual, you'd put on a black robe. They call it Hai Ching. The monks and nuns there would wear brown robes. And then for ritual, they would put on the same black robe as well. But so there's all different types of variations of what you would wear. There isn't necessarily any kind of rhyme or reason or logic behind it. But the meaning behind the simple kind of clothing is that, you look at the life of the Buddha, as you know, and he was a prince. So for those who don't know, he was 29 when he left home, and his life of a prince had all the wealth, all the riches, all the money, all the clothes, all the women, anything he had, anything he wanted, he had it all. And when he left all that, when he renounced that life, he, as a symbol of kind of renunciation, he had beautiful, long, princely hair, and he cut it and began to shave his head. And so that was one sign of showing his renunciate path of just kind of letting go, surrendering to all these things that kind of tie us down. And also with the clothes. So he found patches of cloth, sewed them all together, and had 2 robes. That was it. He had a total of 7 objects. He had a robe, he had a bowl, he had a razor to shave his head, he had a kind of a sharpener for the blade, he had a strainer for water and food. 7 objects. I got 7 objects sitting up here with me right now. So, and again, the idea behind these teachings is not that you need to get rid of all your stuff, not that you need to shave your head. Some of us don't worry about that so much anymore, anyways, right? But the idea is, look at all the simple little things in your life that you don't really think about: the clothes, for one, the shoes, the belts, the hairstyles. Again, for those of you who still have that. Spend a lot of time and money and effort on those things, as if they make a difference. I mean, most people don't wake up and think, I'm just going to put on this shirt. They think, what shirt looks good on me? Or they put a shirt on and they ask themselves, does this look good on me? You comb your hair, you spend time in front of the mirror, and then you leave the house. Before you leave the house, wherever you reside, you look at the mirror again in the entryway, in the hallway, and in the bathroom, and then you get into the car if you drive, and then you look up in the rearview mirror and you look at your hair again. And then you drive here if you drove here, and before you get out of your car, you drop the thing down and potentially look at the mirror again, as if your hair actually changed from the moment you left your house to here. So 17 times we've looked at the way our hair looks before you even enter the building. You know what matters? Not at all. Your hair. It means nothing. It makes you feel a certain way, so in that regard we could say it means something. But ultimately, what your hair looks like has no bearing whatsoever on anything important in life, at all. But we are conditioned our entire lives to spend so much time and effort and money and energy on that. And I'm not suggesting you all stop that. I pointed out from this question to recognize how much time we spent worried about these things. Do our shoes match our belt? And does that match our tie? And I only speak of these things because I spent, 25 years of my life deeply concerned with them, as if they actually made a bit of difference. And you know how nice it was to have one robe or one set of clothing that you put on every single day? You had 15 minutes to wake up, splash water in your face, brush your teeth, put your robe on, and you were done. We spend 15 minutes trying to figure out what socks we should wear. So, yeah. Simple way of life is really what the Buddha was teaching. What else?
What's the meaning behind the 3 bells?
Again, what does that have to do with your life? I love people who've been around a long time because then I get to pick on them a little bit,
You do.
Yeah. All right, I'll just answer your question. 3 bells, same thing. Different temples have different rituals, different practices. Typically, the 3 bells is the triple gem, representing the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And we say at the beginning, taking refuge in the Buddha, finding safety, comfort, protection, whatever that word refuge means, in the Buddha. But it's important to understand that you're not taking refuge in the Buddha himself. He died 2,500 years ago, and he cannot help you at all. If you're waiting for him to come save you, fix you, heal you, and take away all your pain, you're going to die waiting, right? We take refuge in the Buddha, meaning Buddha nature, bodhicitta, that the Buddha was human. He figured out how to end suffering. We too can figure out how to end our own suffering. To me, that is the most liberating concept. Because it would really suck if we were relying on someone else, something else, somewhere else, someplace else for our happiness. Because that puts all that power and control and ability of us finding actual, real happiness on something else. Taking refuge in the Buddha means that all of my happiness is up to one person and one person only. And that's me. All of my misery is up to one person and one person only. And that is me. So we take refuge in bodhicitta, Buddha nature, that is within all of us. That we too, I don't think my suffering is going to end anytime soon. I don't wake up and think, is my suffering going to go away today? But my practice is to say, can I suffer less today than I did yesterday? And that's the practice. The second one is the Dharma. We take refuge in the teachings. Loving kindness, compassion, joy, equanimity, generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, wisdom, all these kind of key buzzwords you see in every book, that's the Dharma. So if we practice these things, if we practice loving kindness towards ourselves and others, if we practice morality towards ourselves and others, if we practice training our mind to be present, these things will make your life better. Again, the beauty of that is the tools are there. The Dharma, they say, is the medicine. You ever had a headache? You ever had Advil or Tylenol on the shelf and stared at it and not taken it and had your headache go away? No. What do you have to do for your headache to go away? You got to take the medicine, right? So this is the same idea. If you want to suffer less, then be kind. It's real simple to self and others. And the third one is the Sangha. That's we take refuge in the community. The people that we practice with, the people we learn from, the people we challenge each other with, And at the time of the Buddha, it was, the Buddha and the monks and then the nuns, so that kind of monastic culture, the monks and nuns, and then the lay people, and now you kind of fast forward to today. Modern day, it's, a group of people getting together to meditate, look at Buddhist teachings, explore the Dharma. This is your Sangha. This is our Sangha. I also like to look at Sanghas as traffic. You ever yelled at anybody in the Dharma Bum Temple or screamed at them or, thrown your finger up at them or honked at them or done anything rude or nasty to them here? I mean, some of you have been around long enough, probably have by now, but for the most part, no. Right? So if we treated a, 805 freeway at 5 o'clock no different than you treat people here, your experience in traffic would be much gentler. Holiday dinners. It's only February, so we got a ways to work towards it. But, all the close family that you love so dearly that drives you absolutely insane, if you treated them with the same love and kindness that you treat everybody here with, you'd have a more pleasant dinner. So I look at Sangha as not just the people we practice with, but try to kind of, in my mind, as practice, create mini Sanghas everywhere. Costco on a Saturday afternoon. They needed to check out also. You're no more important than they are. They also have a life and things to do. So there are many Sanghas. But so yeah, the 3 bells is a reminder of Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Yeah. What else? Yeah.
I look in the mirror. I'm an ex-hippie, and largely indifferent to the way I look.
Yeah.
But I've noticed over time that if I go to certain places, I get treated differently if I dress up or I don't dress up. If I want to go to the doctor's office, for example, and that's mainly, I have to ask my other half, am I dressed appropriately? Of course, left to my own devices, And the other thing about looking in the mirror, to tell you the truth, is I realize I don't recognize that face anymore. This does not look like me. I don't know who this guy is, but there he is,
Yeah.
And that's, the whole aging thing.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. Well, now that I know that you're, I don't know, can one really be an ex-hippie? I think once a hippie, always a hippie, right? Yeah. Now that I know that you're an ex-hippie or a current hippie, I love you even more, And I think you bring up really beautiful points. One, you're absolutely correct. Your comment that we are treated differently based on how we present ourselves. And that's the sad, harsh reality, right? That's just the way our society works. So I think it's two things on that from a practice standpoint. One is this awareness that that's how things work, right? And to see, I think, the flip side, knowing that those things ultimately don't matter, but in that interaction and in that moment, they often do, and my mom's been yelling at my dad for the way he dresses for the last 54 years, thankfully. But seeing that that's how things work, I think as a practice, it's important to recognize, do we do that to other people? And how could we not? Because what you're really addressing is the fact that we do judge. The first things, if we have the ability to see, the first thing we do is judge them based on their appearance, right? Now that I know that you're a hippie, I will never look at you the same again, right? With that knowledge, right? And so how does our view and judgment of people shift? And isn't it kind of sad that we've created a society that we do judge people based on their appearance and the way they look? All right? Without even getting into race and skin color and all that stuff. You're just talking about the clothing. But it goes, as you know, so much deeper than that. And we are stuck in societies where we look at people and we automatically have some sort of bias based on what we see. So how can we as practitioners do that less to others? That's not going away anytime soon,
We assign a stereotype.
Absolutely.
Categorize people. Or I do it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying, is a practice to recognize what biases do we have and how can we break them down? How can we move away from them? How can we recognize how harmful they are potentially in certain situations? Some things maybe it doesn't matter, but ultimately, it really can be harmful, as you know. And the second piece about, which I love that you said that, when you look in the mirror and you think, who is this guy, right? Again, I think it's an opportunity to reflect on the fact that we tend to view ourselves and others by the physical nature of our body. And as the Buddha taught, we have birth, we have aging. I used to always say birth, old age, and then realized the teaching isn't old age because a lot of us don't get there. It's just aging. We have birth, we have aging, we have sickness, and we have death. This is guaranteed to all of us. And so in this process of the body physically changing and our physical appearance changing, is that who we are? No. So it's really a practice to look in the mirror. I used to, actually I haven't mentioned this in a long time, but years and years ago somebody told me this practice and I used to share it for a long time. And I would do it in prison with inmates and have them do it to each other. But try sitting in front of a mirror, and I'm an eyes open meditation guy anyways, but try sitting in front of a mirror with yourself and do a meditation looking at your eyes. It's wild. It's a really cool experience because in the Buddhist teachings, ultimately, without getting too far into this right now, there is no self. That doesn't mean, for those who are brand new, that the teachings of non-self in Buddhism, if you Google Buddhism, you'll eventually come up with non-self. You read some basic Buddhist book, you'll come up with non-self. This non-self doesn't mean you're not here, doesn't mean you don't exist, it doesn't mean you're not real. It just means you exist completely differently from how you perceive yourself to be. And you exist completely differently from how others perceive yourself to be. That's just my simple way of trying to explain my understanding of non-self. And so we identify ourselves with physical appearance so often. Like you say, you look in the mirror, you're like, who is this I'm looking at? But if you go beyond that physical appearance, beyond the sight, and into whatever is there, consciousness, really. The Buddha called it alaya vijnana, storehouse consciousness. Your consciousness is the only thing that is there. The rest is just physical form, as impermanent as everything else in this world. comes together for a period of time, and then ceases to exist. And this is where the teachings around rebirth or reincarnation or continuation of consciousness, whereas Thich Nhat Hanh teaches it, no birth, no death. This is specifically what he's talking about from my understanding is the consciousness does not die. The body dies. And when the body dies, the consciousness will continue on. But the consciousness, Nagarjuna was a 4th century Buddhist philosopher. He taught very specifically, no beginning, no end. You cannot have something come from nothing. Therefore, consciousness is an endless continuation. No beginning, no end. No birth, no death. The body is here for a period of time, and all of our bodies will cease to work at some point in time. So when we look in the mirror, that's not us. That's not us as we perceive ourselves. It's just some physical structure that will crumble and become ash. And since we know that, going back to my earlier comment, why waste time being pissed off and miserable? You cannot like things that go on in the world and still enjoy your life. You cannot like things that go on in the world and still be at peace. The practice is to not let everything that's going on around you destroy your peace. So thank you for sharing that. What else? Yeah.
On that same point, I feel like I swing completely the opposite way and end up just putting my head in the sand to find peace.
Yeah.
But it's like so chaotic.
How's that? Oh, it's continue.
That's it.
When you say, okay, let me, so you said you swing the other way, meaning, as you said, to paraphrase, when things are so chaotic, you bury your head in the sand to find peace. My question to you is, does it work? Do you find peace, or are you just buried in the sand?
I do, but then I have other feelings about my killings. You know.
What do you mean?
That I have guilt, that I should be doing something else.
That you, right. It's funny because I stopped, but the last thing I almost said was that, you cannot be okay with the world around you and still be at peace. I almost said, you cannot be okay with the world around you and still be at peace, and you don't need to feel shame or guilt for that. The world could be on fire. You should still be at peace. And do whatever you can to put out the fire. And if you don't have the tools to put out the fire, it's not your fault. But you have some tools. So use the tools you have without feeling like the whole weight of the world is on your shoulders, right? And again, you've heard me talk about this a lot, but this is, Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings on engaged Buddhism, that we want to engage to create change, but at the risk of always having to bury your head in the sand. To me, what that says, not just for you, but for pretty much most people, is we have to continue to cultivate peace and love and kindness within ourselves, so we don't ever have to feel like we need to bury our head in the sand. Because then once we stop feeling like we have to bury our head in the sand, then we will create change as much as we can. And at times you then have to kind of regroup and take care of yourself too. It's the oxygen mask on the airplane. With a child, you've got to put it on yourself first. And if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. But the idea of shame and guilt and how can I be happy when the world's on fire? Why can't you be happy? Do we all have to be miserable? No, we don't have to, but we choose to be miserable because we convince ourselves, and the world is telling ourselves, that you're not doing enough. Do what you can. Again, the Buddhist teachings on balance, the emaciated Buddha, the middle path. There's a balance. Engage, be active. As an activist, fight, create change, and then recognize, whoa, my tank is empty. And not in the good Buddhist empty way, right? Empty meaning like your car ain't working anymore. Because if your tank is empty, you're of no use to anyone. So I think it's a balance. Try to find a balance, again, these things are much easier said than done, but this extreme of I'm going to save the world or I'm going to hide in the closet, try to find balance. And there's so much shame right now that people are putting on themselves. You know, the world's been a mess for 1,000 years. It's a mess today, and it's going to be a mess for another 1,000 years. That doesn't mean your life has to be a disaster in your heart and mind. Yeah, there was a hand somewhere. Yeah.
I face stereotypes every day of my life. No matter what I'm doing, no matter my hair color. And it used to bother me so much. I was really angry, and I asked, why me, why me? But then, coming here made me realize that I need to be happy for who I am. And in my life, I try to teach people about disability issues. And I have a method, and people are shocked when they hear that. They go, "You have a method?" And Eric, we've been married for many, many years, but everybody thinks Eric is my caregiver. And he's like, "No shit, I need the caregiver." And then I laugh. I laugh every day of my life. These boy people are idiots.
Yeah. Yeah.
People don't know. And I could go on and on and on about telling you stories about like that.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind.
Totally.
So I don't care what I wear. I don't care if my hair is gone. People are going to see me as a person with a disability, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah. And I think, first, that you being his caregiver, I would totally believe. That does not shock me at all. Again, I think, beautiful points to the practice of trying to not allow the way others view us and judge us destroy us, because it really can. And learning to love yourself, all of us learning to love ourselves for exactly who and how we are. Because this is who and how we are. And that's a really difficult task, and I think that, I think you've probably evolved a bit from it, maybe from your younger years with it, but, one idea, like you said, to quote, "They're just idiots," right? One thing is, and I know you didn't really mean that because I know your heart, but is to understand their ignorance. They're angry. They're afraid. They're scared. They're mean. People are that way. And they always will be. And they too can change.
If they want to.
If they want to. And I know I was that way for a majority of my life. I get it. But you can change. The people can change. And so all the people that are so angry and hateful towards others, they too can change. It's not our responsibility to make them change. But as a practice, it's really beautiful to be in a place where you can just love you for you. Yeah, so thank you. What else? We'll do one more before we close. Yeah.
Yeah, I realize sometimes I feel that things happen, I start feeling bad for other people, like I blame myself, like I cause it, sometimes nothing to do with me. I realize because I feel powerless, I can't fix it. How can I be at peace with it? Because, at least if I feel I caused it, I can fix it, I can feel something. But when I feel powerless over a situation, what's a way to get out of it into a space of being at peace with what is going on.
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, to paraphrase for those virtually didn't hear it, the question in essence is if you created a situation that is a mess and you created it, you feel like you can fix it, so you feel like you can be at peace with it. But if the situation is not anything you created, you feel powerless, so it's really hard for you to be at peace with it. And I think that, again, these are just semantics, but when I say things like to be at peace with how the world is, I want to be very clear, especially for those who don't know me. I'm not saying that means things are okay or right or good, or that we should celebrate how things are if we don't like how things are.
Right.
And there are always little things we can do for anything. Now, you said the word, a lot of it is, again, I'm sure no one in this room, but many people outside of this room like to try to control people and places and things. And when they can't control them and they can't change them and they can't fix them, it bothers them. So ultimately, being at peace has as much to do with the fact that you can't control others. That's what I find tends to make most people angry. It's not even so much about what it is. It's partially what it is, but it's also the fact that you're not able to convince someone with your Facebook post that they should be a certain way, and now you're angry because they don't listen to you. You know? I like to use the word embrace, where, again, to say at peace might not hit the right way with some people because it makes it sound like it makes it sound like you're okay with how things are. And when I say be at peace with how things are, embracing that this is the reality that we're in. And I have two choices. I can be at peace with that and fight to make change, or I can be an absolute mess and fight to make change. Two choices. Still fight to create change if that's what you believe in your heart. But the practice of embracing life as it is really about surrendering control. People are not going to listen to you your whole life. And they're not going to do what you want them to do. And they're also not going to care what you have to say. And our egos don't do so well with that. So again, being at peace has a lot to do with us shattering and breaking down our egos, our attachments, our desires, our cravings of wanting the world to be a certain way. Because for 1 million people who want the world to be one way, that maybe would be on your side, there's 1 million people that they're at peace with how things are. And you're not okay with that. And that's why you're not at peace. Millions of people are at perfect peace right now. Do you realize that?
Yeah.
Can you embrace that? Most people can't. And again, just for those who never heard me, I'm not saying that we're just accepting life as it is and that it doesn't matter. Everything matters. There are disgusting things happening in this world and we should fight to create change. But as you know, the Thich Nhat Hanhs, the Martin Luther Kings, the Gandhis, as they all said, you got to change yourself first. And that's this practice. And as I started with today, I'll close with this. Most people right now want to skip that. They're not okay embracing the fact that they're the ones that need to work on their own ego and their own pride and their own attachments and their own desires and their own anger and their own hatred. They're too wrapped up in thinking everybody else is that way. And they're not creating any time or space for them to actually explore, why am I so angry? Where's my hatred? Where have I caused harm? Because all of us have caused harm. We're not free from that. So, with that, I'll close. There's a question here, sorry, Teresa, about medicine Buddha and how practice may help with chronic pain and illness. In brief, I think reciting the medicine Buddha mantra, listening to the medicine Buddha mantra, and recognizing that nothing fixes chronic pain and illness. Specifically, to your question, but very in the same line that I was just speaking, can we embrace that this is what we have? And can we send love and compassion and healing to ourselves while we're in pain? So in brief, and I'm happy to talk about that more next time, but in brief, it doesn't fix it. it helps us embrace it. So. All right, so we'll join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit be transferred to those who need it most. All right, a few announcements before you all head out. Thanks for being here. My name is Jeff. I'm a Dharma Bum. We opened up this temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those of us who lead, we're not monks, we're not nuns, we're not gurus, we're not masters, we're not teachers, we're not looking for students. We're just practitioners. We do our best to take our understanding of Buddhist teachings and put it into terms that hopefully make sense to those who show up. Every night we have different practices going on, different people leading from a different Buddhist tradition. Every Thursday, 4:30, we do, I think, one of the best things around here. It's a food redistribution program. We prepare gourmet vegetarian meals, also known as peanut butter and jelly, and we feed people who sleep on the street. So anytime you think your life sucks and you lack gratitude for everything you have, feed people who sleep on a sidewalk every night, and it tends to put things into perspective a little bit. First Saturday of every month, we do a half day of silence. It's 4 hours of silence, so 20 minutes of silence is absolute torture for you. I strongly recommend trying it for 4 hours. Most people, to my knowledge, have survived thus far. Lastly, we have a new class we started last week. We have a new every Wednesday night now at 7 o'clock. We have a basic Buddhism and meditation class in Spanish. Alma, who's been leading our Zen practice, one of the leaders for our Zen practice Monday nights for quite a while, and done a lot with the kids. We've known her for probably 12, 13 years. We started that last Wednesday. So Wednesdays at 7 o'clock. Just a beautiful practice, and to be able to offer that in Spanish is really wonderful. So if anyone's interested in that, or just help us spread the word, that would be great. Other than that, Buddha for you is downstairs. If you need anything, thank you for showing up. Wish you well.